just filmed a Christmas video, so that's why. With the Christmas. But I wanted to record this too, just to have it ready to go for you, because I feel like I've been slacking a little bit the last week. But yeah, so today's video I am going to be talking to you about the Peter Bergmann case. Now, this happened in Ireland. It is more of an unsolved mystery than a true crime. It's not really there's not really any evidence of a crime taking place, so that's what I'll name it, an unsolved mystery. But it is quite a famous, well-known case in Ireland. So I'm just going to get straight into this case. If death or anything relating to illness such as cancer is going to make you feel uncomfortable, please do click off the video now. I have my notes down here, so if I'm looking down, that's why, and I'm sorry if it's distracting. But yeah, so on the 16th of June 2009, a man's body was found on Ross's Point Beach in Sligo, Ireland. His body was found by a man named Arthur Kinsella and his son Brian. Brian was training for a triathlon, and they had gone down to the beach quite early to start more training. And they had found the man's body at around 6:45 in the morning. From the time that the man's body was found, an investigation was started by the Gardaí straight away, and the investigation went on for the next few months. So during this investigation, the guards were able to look back at CCTV and kind of track this man's movements. The first sighting of him on CCTV cameras was a bus station in Derry, and this was, it looked as if he had started off getting a bus from Derry to Sligo on the 12th of June 2009. He was carrying a black shoulder bag and a small carry-on bag. The man arrived in Sligo at around 6:30 on the 12th of June. He took a bus from the station to the Sligo City Hotel, where he paid per night with cash. When the man had checked into the hotel, he had given the name Peter Bergmann, and whenever he had to give his address, he had put down an address which was based in Vienna, in Austria. So during the investigation, the guards had interviewed staff at the hotel and had been given all of the CCTV footage, so they were able to look back at what the man was doing. He was described as quiet. He had, the staff had said that he had quite a thick German accent, or what seemed to be a German accent, so it could have been German, it could have been Austrian. He was described as very quiet. He would have just stayed to himself. Although he was pleasant, he would have kind of nodded as he walked past people. So there were a few times where he was spotted on this CCTV footage leaving the hotel. One of these instances, he left the hotel with a purple plastic bag, and on his return from the hotel, he didn't have the plastic bag with him. So throughout the investigation, because when the man was found, there was no identification on him. They didn't have anything. He didn't have a driver's license. He didn't have a passport. So it's believed that this plastic bag contained all of his personal belongings with his identification on the CCTV, he was spotted so many times on CCTV, just walking, but anytime he got rid of anything from the bag, or at the time that he actually did get rid of the bag, he had used blind spots in the cameras. So to the guards it kind of seemed like maybe he was using the blind spots to his advantage. On Saturday the 13th of June, the man was seen walking into a post office in Sligo. He purchased 8 82-cent stamps and airmail stickers, so it seemed as if he was maybe going to be posting some letters. The following day he had left the hotel at around 11 o'clock in the morning and asked the taxi driver that he was using for recommendations on beaches nearby because he liked to swim. And the taxi driver had told him Ross's Point Beach is probably one of the most popular and is one of his recommendations. As far as I can tell, the taxi driver took Peter Bergmann back to Ross's Point Beach to show him the beach, and he stood and had a look and kind of he seemed happy enough with it. He got back into the taxi and dropped off at a bus station in Sligo. There was a point during his stay at the hotel that one of the workers in the hotel, I think she was maybe a manager or worked in reception, she had been told by the cleaners that they couldn't get into Mr. Bergmann's room, and she herself then went and tried to get into the room, knocked on the door, didn't get an answer, and opened the door. And she has said that he was inside, and it seemed as if he had been caught off guard. It was as if she had walked in and he was in the middle of doing something that he shouldn't be doing, or that he was surprised by someone being in there, but that he was relieved that it was a worker from the hotel. It was kind of as if maybe he had been expecting somebody else. So on the 15th of June 2009, the man checked out of the hotel in the afternoon and handed his room key back. He left with a black shoulder bag, a purple plastic bag, and a different black luggage bag, so it was a different bag than what he had arrived with. When he left the hotel, he walked to a shopping centre called Quayside Shopping Centre. It's noted that maybe he had been witnessed kind of standing around the doorway, just kind of hovering, and he was only there a few minutes, and then walked from there to a bus station, or in the direction of the bus station, and he still had all 3 bags with him. At around 1:30, he had stopped and ordered a sandwich and a cup of coffee, and on the CCTV footage he's seen pulling papers out of his pockets and looking at them, and once he'd read them he'd torn them up and put them in a bin. Once he'd finished his lunch, he then got on the bus again to Ross's Point, and it's reported that he was seen by about 16 people on his way from the bus station to Ross's Point Beach. So that is kind of the timeline of what happens from him arriving in the hotel to when he went to Ross's Point Beach. The following morning was when he was found by Arthur and Brian. So on a documentary that I had watched, there's an interview with Arthur. The documentary is called, I think it's The Last Hours of Peter Bergmann. It's on YouTube. According to Arthur, he and Brian had said the Lord's Prayer for the man and then contacted the Gardaí. Whenever he was found, he was wearing purple striped Speedo type swimming trunks, but I don't think they were actually Speedo brand. And his his underwear was over the top with a navy t-shirt tucked into his boxer shorts. And all of his clothes, his speedos, his underwear, every item of clothing that he had and he'd left behind, he had cut out all of the tags. So it's kind of wondered, is this because he didn't want to give away where he was actually from? So if some of the clothes had been from a certain shop in Germany or Austria, wherever it was that he was from, he didn't want anyone to know. So whenever he was found, I believe it was around 8 a.m. in the morning, was when he was pronounced dead by one of the doctors that arrived on the scene. So there were a number of different issues with the address that he had provided. He had said that he was from a place called Einstetten. I really am sorry for the pronunciation problems. So that was put down as the street name. A lot of people said that it was spelt incorrectly, and I believe there is either a street or a town called Amstetten, which is in Austria, but it was spelled completely differently and it's in a different area. The other thing is the postal codes in Vienna all start with a 1, and the postcode that was provided by Peter Bergmann it started with a 4. As well as that, his name, Peter Bergmann. Apparently there are 2 different variations of the surname Bergmann, with 1 N or with 2 N's, and traditionally it's spelt with 2 N's by people from Austria. So there's that. There's always been the question, is he Austrian or is he German? So although it looked as if the man had washed up, it was determined by the medical examiner that he didn't drown. There was no sign of drowning. There was also no sign of any foul play. So it didn't look as though he had been murdered. The man's teeth were apparently in very good condition, although his health otherwise was not in such good condition. They had found that he had quite advanced stages of prostate cancer, so it looked to be terminal cancer that he was dealing with. As well as that, he had tumours in his bones, and one of his kidneys had been removed. He also had signs of a number of previous heart attacks, and in the CCTV he can be seen smoking on a number of occasions, so it could be that he has been a heavy smoker throughout his life and this is what's caused the heart problems. So because of all of the ailments that he had, because of the cancer, the tumours, and just his general health, it was determined that by the medical examiner that he would have been in quite a lot of pain. But based on the toxicology report, he hadn't taken any painkillers, he hadn't been taking any pain medication, but he probably should have been because of the stage that he was at. So, according to the Austrian police, the Gardaí didn't actually contact them to let them know what was happening or to try and find out if this man was from Austria. But he also, because he wasn't a missing person, he hadn't been reported missing because they didn't know his identification. And he wasn't a wanted person, again, because they didn't know who he was. They couldn't put a notice through to Interpol, which then means that the information wasn't shared through different jurisdictions because information or for the DNA to be shared. So up until today, there is still no clues as to who this man was. Peter Bergmann was definitely a false name. There was no one under that name from Austria or Germany with the same, around the same age. It just wasn't him. And there's been no one that's come forward. Now, it could be a case that wherever he is from, they maybe aren't aware that there was a man found, an unidentified man found in Ireland. So they couldn't do anything about it, or his family just wouldn't know. It's just such a bizarre case. So there are a few people kind of speculate all the time on Reddit as to why he would have done, why he would have got rid of all of his identification, why he had come to Ireland. Had he run away from something? There were a few that I had read today that had said, a few people had said, could he have been running away from family who wanted him to fight his cancer? So if people had been saying to him, you need to take the treatment, you need to try and fight to live, and he just maybe had enough and didn't want to go on, didn't want to go through the treatment if he was finding it hard, and he just left. But then he had maybe written letters to his family and to his friends to explain himself once he had got to Ireland. But then again, with those letters, the people that received them would have seen where they had come from. They would have seen that they had come from Ireland, so they would then hopefully link the fact that an unidentified man was found in Ireland. Could this be my father? Could this be my uncle? It's just such a bizarre case. And at this point there's just still no identification of him. I find it so strange that they can't share information or try and find more information from the Austrian police or the German police. But I suppose based on their procedures they can't, because he's not been declared missing, or I don't know. Other people have said, could he have been running away from or trying to claim insurance fraud or something for his family? So if he had run away and been missing, maybe the insurance would pay out. To be honest though, I think there's a lot of different clauses that stop that from happening, so it would be, it just wouldn't be realistic. But there's just so many different, I think all the time on Reddit, people just like to talk and speculate, is what we all do. But at the end of the day, this is a man who, he could have had a family, he could have had friends who are sitting in Austria or Germany who are wondering, where is my loved one? He could have also been a serial killer, he could have been a bad person. We're just not going to know. We just don't know. But hopefully one day there is some sort of way of finding out who he is and maybe bringing some sort of closure to people. I think the likelihood is, if he knew he was dying, if he knew he had terminal cancer and he was if he knew he didn't have very long left, the likelihood is that maybe, yes, he did just want to live out his last days how he wanted them. I don't know. I wanted to share this with you because it isn't one that you see or hear about very often, and I just find it so interesting, and yeah, it's one of those